You are watching Xirtus.
I was talking to David, and he said, "Hey, of all the people, I'm like, who are some people that we should get to talk to on the show?" And one person, immediate, Alex Fulton. That was like, he's like,
Oh,
we got to get on that. So
that's so sweet. Thank you.
well, we wanted to introduce kind of because we talked a bit about CryptoKubrology a bit, you know, at least in general, that Kubrick aesthetic and visuals. Andy, you've done things on this as well, on Kubrick and Moon and things like that. So I was wondering, you know, what is your relationship with Stanley Kubrick, or what does that mean to you? What do you mean when you say CryptoKubrology?
Well, CryptoKubrology was a sort of a term invented by a guy who I will mention a lot, but who's in absentia, who is Sean Fella, who came out actually on December 21st, 2012. He published his website, he published his website, CryptoKubrology, he called it, which was just like his first sort of chapters on analyzing The Shining and other stuff. And so eventually I kind of hooked up with him talking, and just because I'd all grew out of my interest in sync, and so there's sort of a difference, I think, between sync and CryptoKubrology, which is like CryptoKubrology is a study of synchronicity, and it's a form of methodology of how to study it. And so, yeah, it all sort of uses Kubrick as sort of like the linchpin to examine pretty much everything. And when you do that, it's sort of weird shit unlocks, and there's a weird kind of story being told. And previous movies that seem sort of obscure seem to become illuminated, and not just Kubrick movies, but everything. So I don't know if I'm answering your question or not, but
I mean, you know,
lot,
you should just get really stressed about it instead of answering it. That's the best way to do it.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm doing.
But,
so
Andy, no, you're good. I was just kidding. Andy, what about you? I'm gonna do like a whole what the F for everybody. Kubrick, let's go. Andy, what's your first thought when you think about Kubrick?
Oh, the moon, right away. Yeah. I've seen a few images, pieces of video footage that pretty compelling to me, that suggest, and the focus of the footage was like, see, it's a movie, it's being produced, it's not real. But the thing that I noticed is the guy in the background with the red jacket and the scruffy beard, and I'm like, well, no one's focused on him, and I think that might be actually be Kubrick. And that's my take on that angle of it. Other than that, I've just watched his movies and been fascinated by all the symbolism that just speaks volumes through him, you know?
Yeah, symbol. Okay, David, symbolism, Kubrick, go.
Hell yeah.
You know, I spent time at the Elephant and Castle archives in London and looking through certain boxes. I was particularly interested in Kubrick's Napoleon, or rather Josephine and Napoleon, and AI, you know, like rabbis. I've seen two separate talks from rabbis at the British, or not the British, the Jewish Museum in San Francisco, giving talks on Kabbalah and Kubrick films, and like had like a little bit of correspondence around that, and just like basically, like, I see Kubrick films as like original, like meta as far as film goes. Like, closest films I could probably relate Kubrick's films to of old is like Metropolis, where you have like a story that's also dealing with archetypes that are so embedded and like something that we experience in our lives, and just like there's like really no point where like the film ends and the rest of the world begins, kind of thing. And so I see profundity in Kubrick's work, because he seems to be relating to like not just a symbol set, but like a particular like relationship to symbolism that's very unique. And so you can glean things from it that you can't always glean from other films. But then he's so influential to so many filmmakers that you see the same kind of, I don't know what to call them, but like maybe like archetypal tropes that just show up everywhere. And like if I look at it like is it 3-point perspective of a Kubrick film, where you have like that kind of triangle that gets repeated, and it's so resonant, like with a Masonic tracing board, and then like where that comes from in the first place, not as like a Masonic thing, but like as a deeply like, you know, kind of arcane communication. And yeah, I mean, it's one of those questions. It's hard to know where to start. So it's like, whoa, okay, Kubrick. I mean, I have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, legit. Al,
What was well, our old buddy Mark used to compare looking at Kubrick movies to looking at a mountain, or like it's just something that just has always been there and always will, and sort of defies the description, poetic description.
Dude,
its enormity.
Did we discuss Moonfall and relationship to Mark Leclerc?
I posted about that.
Dude, what the fuck, dude? I had to watch it. And like, you know, cheesy action film, whatever. But man, if it doesn't feel like they took our friends' ideas and just like not only made a film out of it, but like included Mark in it as like a character.
Yeah.
A caricature
it freaked
of Mark.
Me out.
It's so fucking bizarre.
So what's the story behind that? Can you
please.
elaborate? Yeah.
Well, yeah, Mark Leclerc used to run a blog called Wrong Way Wizard, who was one of the best and most influential and early sync blogs on the internet. And in terms of analysis of Kubrick, it's where it all started for me. He was a guest many times on Sync Book Radio and some other shows, and
this is pretty obscure. I don't even know. Is
you're not
still up? Did he shut it down?
No, he deleted his blog, and so that's not going to come up on any searches. But anyway, he had this whole theory that's in Sync Book 2 about the moon and about how we actually live inside of the moon, and sort of like a hollow moon theory, but that the moon encompasses the Earth. The Earth is a hologram projected like.
It's really hard to do justice because
extremely.
His articulation of like how he goes about like what his relationship to all that is.
That's Koresh Teed, right? You know, Andy, you know Koresh Teed's Hollow Earth thing? That one?
It's a similar concept, but the movie Moonfall, it just like seems to take. Actually, if you look up Moonfall and you look up the character, the main character, he's basically looks a lot like him. I mean, he's kind of like a conspiracy theorist dude that
he's it.
And
this is like the thing. It's like
this Koresh Teed thing is kind of interesting because like Florida, right where the Scientologists are, there's this place where it's supposed to be like near Ponce de Leon and, you know, Star Fort's abound from Tartaria, where they said, hey, we found out this is how you see that we're inside of the hollow earth. We're actually living in this hyper density that's in the center core. And we're looking outwards from within. We're in the hollow earth right now, and the space is on the outside. You know, They had this whole cult model of it. Is that kind of similar?
Very similar. It's very similar, except that the Earth doesn't exist, and it's actually the moon that we're inside. And the moon that we see is like the projector of the lens that is projecting the Earth. I think that's what he was.
Something along those lines.
Is that related?
Yeah.
Is that related to that idea that the crater shapes on the moon are actually like the continents? Or have you heard that one? That's an interesting one.
I haven't heard that.
Where
what's
the moon is some kind of like X-ray reflection of the Earth, and that's like actually, I think it lends itself to
similar
flat
idea.
Earth, though I don't know.
There's been other ideas, like I think in the I can't ever pronounce that word, anthropopathy. There's a book about the sun that kind of posits a similar idea that we all live inside the sun, but I guess that sort of brings us back to the moon, and in a way, that's exactly what Andy was saying, that associating Kubrick with the moon has been going on for a long time, and that is one of the key kind of CryptoKubrological tropes that just reappears and appears, and it's hard to make sense out of it. You can make sense out of it in the Jay Weidner way of saying like, Kubrick faked the moon landing, literally did that, and he was hired by the military, and that may be true, but then there's all kinds of other stuff that's very similar with regards to things like 9/11 and the Kennedy assassination and everything else in the 20th century that seems to relate to Kubrick in a really weird and specific way. And so, yeah.
What kind of examples, like with the Kennedy thing, for instance?
Well, I'll talk about 9/11 because it's sort of more spectacular, but and this is another one of Mark's theories, was that
Kennedy's head just exploded when he had that massive insight, and then
that one too,
no bullet theory. That was one of Mark's.
Yeah, and the Trade Center just exploded like that, which was just like the relation of 2001, the movie, to the event 9/11 in 2001, and there's the Hilton Hotel, which is designed after the monolith, is directly next to Ground Zero. So when the towers fell and everything was smoking rubble, you could just see this monolith there, kind of overlooking it all. Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, there's going to be more to it, but then because it relates to NASA as well, because of
that
the production.
freaking monolith.
Yeah.